like this, we should be right. Hopefully. Yeah, I think we may have just reconnected.
It still says offline.
Yeah, we're there. I think we are.
Yeah.
Welcome back, people. WikiBees 19. We will get there. So, so I suppose a bit of an explanation behind a few of our technical hitches. We've had a bit of a reshuffle in our stream team. So Ebon's moved on, and so we had a bit of a last minute rejuggle to try and get things working. And I, of course, am in some building in the middle of Wellington here on mobile. So it can be a challenge to get these things together. And plus, I thought it was only Tuesday, and so I got the day wrong and didn't prep. So fantastic to have you all here, and I'm hoping there are lots of people here. And we've got a great team here. We've got Jose and Kathy and Bruce and Kitty. Kitty is here as well. So it's fantastic to have you all on board, and I will hand over to the team and we'll do some wiki-being.
I just want to check first. Kitty,
Yep.
Are you recording?
If someone with
yes.
Zoom can, it's probably best if someone else does it rather than chewing up resources on the PC.
Well, I'm not permitted to. I've got a padlock on recording, unfortunately, this time.
Bruce, are you able to?
I don't know how to do it.
Up the top left-hand corner of the Zoom window, you should either have a record button or a green padlock. If you've got the record button, then just
down
hit it.
Down the bottom.
Actually,
there'll be a
on the
record.
bottom as well.
Yeah, down the bottom.
Sorry. Yeah,
Is
I
it
don't
under
have
more? Let's see. I'll record.
And share and all the rest of it. Yeah. We'll
So is that going to my computer?
Yeah, it may. Yeah, if you've got.
Yes.
Okay. So I should just press it though, eh?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Just so it's got a backup. We're going live out to the internet. We should be right.
Record to the cloud.
You can try the cloud, but I know the account doesn't have a lot of space. So probably on your computer if you've got some space.
Yeah, local drive will not chew up bandwidth.
Okay, we'll try that.
We're recording. Woohoo! One step closer. This is good fun doing it live, eh? So you can see we're real people, and we have real tech problems, and it is possible to do all this while in fact I'm just here opposite the seat of power. There is the New Zealand beehive where New Zealand Parliament and government sits. So I'm joining here using some free Wi-Fi, and it's possible to run WikiBees from wherever you are, people. And it's fantastic to have Jose here showing us pictures of the mountains and other things. But yeah, go for it, Bruce and Kathy. What's new with WikiBees?
Eurasian enthusiast says it's still buffering a lot.
Yeah, we'll try and solve that next time. You can hear us all right, hopefully.
So,
well, if it's stopping,
we're recording it anyway, so we can share it out later if need be. Yeah.
Long buffers. So a question to the people on the YouTube chat: is it acceptable or just too bad? Let's have a vote. Should we? Is it acceptable to continue on like this, or? Okay, so I'll continue. Let us know how the stream's going.
Totally.
For the moment, I just assume that we're good because we're very lucky to have Jose here from Ecuador again. Hi, Jose.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, very good, thank you. I'm still seeing the chat messages, and it's a little bit problematic, Joe, because buffering. I still see images of 3 people and a landscape. No sounds. No sounds. the 3 people in landscape is good. That's the 3 people.
Just check that desktop audio isn't muted on your end, Kitty. And OBS, there's a little. Working, so no audio. The
buffering's not good enough. Also, that's what people are saying. The buffering's not good enough.
I mean, the other thing is that they won't be able to hear us immediately. Remember that the stream is a little bit behind the live. So I might just give it. Right.
But if we can improve the buffering, we may as well stop, I think. Because look, at least from what I'm seeing of YouTube, it's terrible. So, Joe, is there a realistic prospect for improving the buffering, or should we just say it's not going to work out this time?
It's probably just a matter of figuring out if anything else you got open that's consuming resources there. Kitty, but
actually,
maybe, yeah. Try and leave Zoom full screen, but everything else, well, apart from OBS, can go. Have we got audio on the internet?
Well, I mean, I'm just playing the stream and I can hear audio.
Yeah, cool. That's what I thought. It was working for me. Okay, so no problems with audio. And if our pictures get interrupted from time to time, that's probably okay.
Okay, we are recording.
And we are recording, so we can give you a high quality version later. All right. Awesome.
So the audio is good, is it?
No.
The audio is the buffering. So if the images are buffering, the audio must be buffering as well, right?
Oh, audio is only like 128 bits compared to megabits. So yeah, audio might get through all right. Yeah, I get the same problem. It's I'm sure someone says, "Oh, look, let's shut down WikiBees." Anyway, continue on. We are recording it separately, so we can always upload later. I'm going to just stop video too. Oh, welcome,
hang on a minute,
David, as well.
So Eurasian Enthusiast says again, audio and video are good, but it is buffering a lot. So should we just make it recorded and then post it later? Because
we lose the interactivity. We can always post a good quality version later. The fact that it's buffering is just, we'll get a few frame lags every now and then, a few dropped frames. It's like it used to be back in the early days, before we had yeah.
Should I put it to a vote of the YouTube chat people?
You can probably also get a few people joining the Zoom if need be directly. We can fit 100 people in there. Run with what you want, Bruce. Continue on or I'll go.
So let's see. Kathy Bogan, you're in the chat. Joe and I can hear the audio. Okay. We are recording locally. And Isis says, no problem, either live or recorded. You are watched, my dears. Thank you, Isis. So I don't think we should put people through this or this buffering. I mean, we can ask them.
Just let it go. Just let it go. We can actually replace it with a perfect recording later on this evening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just tell everyone that we're going to have a good quality recording later on.
Yeah.
It's up to you whether you want to watch this puppet version or not. So that.
Well,
we'll just continue on as if we're live and interactive, and those of you that can join through the chat and interact, that's awesome as well.
How about we kind of introduce it again so that if it's the recording, we can just start from here.
Totally. I'm just going to drop off video to save bandwidth.
Well, I think people need to know the situation, that there's going to be a good quality recording later on, so they can decide for themselves. So
yeah.
Can you hear that, people?
Well, they can't hear us live.
Yeah, they might not even be getting it. So.
No, I mean, there's a delay of 20 seconds, so you won't get an answer to that straight away. But maybe we should just start and start again properly with a proper introduction. And I mean, you did earlier on, but that was about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, so you do the introduction, Kathy, and meanwhile I'll just type.
Okay, so we're starting again. All right, 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wikibase 19. We have Joe, Kitty, Jose live from Ecuador again, and Bruce and myself. And as you know, enormous number of things have been happening in the last few days even. But in particular, we've had the refusal to unseal that charge. That was a motion was filed by the Department of Justice the day before. We just heard from Hannah of Twitter handle Assange Legal. She's a candidate, PhD candidate in constitutional law, and she's part of the Assange legal team. So we can trust what's coming out of there. But, you know, we were all trembling with the anticipation, as they say, to find out if that indictment was going to be unsealed. And the consensus between a number of us was that it was generally a good thing if it did. Why is that? Because it came from the Manning era, and it seemed to be a charge that had been abandoned. I mean, we're not really sure. It wasn't dropped, but it's just that the Obama administration had expressed the view that it would be very difficult to prosecute because this one, contrary to what a lot of the public thought, was a First Amendment issue. It's coming from the period where pretty well the whole world was supporting WikiLeaks, but especially the left. So, you know, they've just sort of let it go. Mainstream news and, you know, whatever, have let it go that a lot of people were thinking that this was to do with the Mueller indictment. They were riding on all of that anger still that Trump had been elected, and they kind of milked it for a while. But in the 11th hour almost, the Department of Justice actually filed a motion to say that they would be rejecting cowards, because I think the press in America really wanted to bring it on. They're sick of this. You know, they're living in a climate where mainstream journalists are being called the enemy of the people. A Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, was sliced up into little pieces, one of their own. And we had the president, you know, wanting to turn a blind eye to it and say, we have financial arrangements with Saudi Arabia. America first meant, well, let's just try and gloss that over. But the press in America, they've had it for, some time about how they're being treated. So if we were pretty sure, Assange Legal was fairly certain that this was from the grand jury. We knew that because it was in the Eastern District Court of Virginia that the document had been filed. In fact, we've known about that since February 2011 because from the Stratfor emails, which mention a couple of the intelligence staff of Stratfor, which is an enormous worldwide private intelligence organization, the phrase, "We have an indictment on Assange." So now this is really interesting because there's a question of timing, which is very fine. Julian surrendered himself. If you remember, when he was given permission to leave Sweden after waiting for 5 weeks to try and get this questioning happening, Marianne Nye, the prosecutor, gave him permission to leave Sweden. And then when he arrived, he discovered that she had issued a red notice, Interpol red notice for his arrest, which was really shocking because an Interpol red notice, you would issue that for someone like Osama bin Laden, mass murderers. It's a very, very serious charge, not charge, but arrest warrant. It's priority internationally, right? It's a manhunt. And this was very disproportionate to somebody being wanted for questioning. But the whole thing was to, I suppose, escalated in people's minds. If it's a red notice, then it must be something terrible, right? There must be something we don't know about. It comes right back to the present day with the Guardian, pretending that Manafort came to see Julian. There was nothing in the visitor's book. There's no records of it whatsoever, but people think, they must have some recordings. But anyway, let's just get to when Julian arrived in England. So when he discovered this, Julian surrendered himself to British police on the 7th of December. He was there for 10 or 11 days, according to how people count it. And so he would have been out by the 18th. Now, in fact, the Stratfor email was only sent in January 2011 and then reported on. We heard about it in February. But we've known about this, and Julian has known about this indictment for a long time. That is why he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. That's why the Ecuadorian government decided to give him asylum, because this charge was known about it. But this was one that the Department of Justice would have great difficulty winning, because that put every journalist who handles state secrets in jeopardy, right? It seems that the First Amendment might have knocked it on the head if we got that one released. And if that were the only charge, then of course, America is never going to say. I mean, the game has been delay and smear, yes, year after year, with America, Sweden, UK, all playing their parts, and then a much more aggressive role by Ecuador, making his turning his asylum into a little shop of horrors. That I think it was maybe Chris Hedges who said that. But anyway, so that was very disappointing. It was a very risky gambit, I think, but the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, who was, in fact, we've got great people there. And that organization was, right at the beginning, there was Walter Cronkite, who was, someone that Daniel Ellsberg always spoke very highly of. So he was involved, Ellsberg's involved. These are very, very good people to have on side, and they know what they're doing. So they must have thought it a good idea. Let's get it out in the open, and maybe Julian could have walked free. But anyway, we are hearing more slander coming out from journalists at The Guardian, groundless slander, once again from the journalist Luke Harding. He's not the only one, but he's put his name to these accusations about Manafort. And as you know, hopefully, WikiLeaks, Julian instructed his lawyers to sue The Guardian finally, which is, I think, is about time, and to raise a crowdfunder. Start a crowdfunder. And so on the WikiLeaks site, there is a crowdfunding project. It would be really good if you could go on Twitter, go to WikiLeaks and donate some money to that. Over the years, people ask what happens to the money that is donated to WikiLeaks. I can tell you that most of it, besides their survival and I suppose some travel, but most of that money goes into court cases. WikiLeaks have been constantly fighting court cases since 2010, in fact, before that, and they always win. They always win. So your money does get put to good use because it keeps tipping the balance back onto the side of justice. And we are blessed since 2006 that we have such a service. This is precious information to know the Iraq war logs, that the Afghan war logs, about Guantanamo, about spying on it wasn't just Edward Snowden. The spy files came out in 2011 from WikiLeaks. Edward Snowden produced the smoking gun, but we are blessed. This is a totally different world because of WikiLeaks. And, if you can only spare a small amount of money, I saw someone had contributed $5. That would be really good. There are some crowdfunders for some of our people as well, which I think is worth mentioning. People are in real difficulty and, being targeted. So we have Susie Dawson and we have Kat Mamer as well, that if you can look into their crowdfunders and spare a few bucks as well. They don't need nearly as much. So, a small amount would be really appreciated. I think a lot of people in our movement are struggling, but some of us are just staying above water. None of us, I don't think, are rich. You either have no time for this kind of thing and you have a few bob in your pocket, or else you give your time like that, and it does, there is a cost in the end. I was very, very poor back in 2013 after 2 years of international travel and all that. But anyway, let's, yes, on that word international, we have Jose Rivera, direct from Ecuador. Again, we are lucky to get these live reports from Ecuador. Jose is an independent journalist, and I think it's Sig Ecuador, his handle, but he will explain how to get to him. But hello, Jose, are you still there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Lovely to talk to you again. All right, can you take it from the top again and let us know what's happening in Ecuador?
As you said, in a few days, a lot of things has happened. So, since yesterday, there is a big scandal in Ecuador involving the vice president, Maria Vicuña, that Lenin Moreno chose after he jailed Glass, his vice president that won the elections. So she is involved in illegal payments, dating back when she was a parliamentarian at the National Assembly, and she was charging her assistant. He had an assistant who is a lawyer, so she was charging him for keeping his job. So,
right.
so she maneuvered to get him promote him, the lawyer, so that he would get more money on his salary.
Right.
So part of that money was going to her pocket. They already proved the bank accounts that she was taking the money.
Right.
So tonight, Lenin Moreno just came out on a national news, session, and he just said that he's going to let the law, decide, if, what happens. But he is the law.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have a very important question, because time is of the essence. How is Jorge Glass on his, what would this be? It's close to his 40th day of hunger strike.
Today is the 39th day. So since yesterday, he's been having some faint spells and some cardiac arrhythmia, irregular heartbeats.
Yeah.
And those are the signs of, of the hunger strike. So, his body is telling him, something is going to happen. So we are suspecting that someone is trying to use this issue with the vice president, while the Jorge Glass life is in danger. So he could die, of a heart attack any minute. So we are suspecting that, they are using this scandal to cover up what is happening to Glass, because his life is in danger now. I mean, he's already having health problems, in his heart.
Jose, how are you finding out about this? There must be some
there was there was a medical report done on Glass. So that's how we know, and we also know because of his previous illnesses, So
correct. Yes, but
actually,
can I just ask? When you learned about that, the medical report, was that broadcast on mainstream media, or was or in a newspaper, mainstream newspaper, or was it independent?
No, Rafael Correa published the report, and also there was and also there was I think his wife, Glass's wife, is talking to some people close to her, about the Glass situation, and that's how we know, because otherwise the government would not allow any news to come out of the jail.
Right. And how would Correa be finding out? I suppose his wife. It's just hard to know where this flow of information is. We need to detect where it is so we can amplify it. But what you seem to be saying is that the general population still don't know that their vice president is about to die on his 39th day of a hunger strike. And we do know from Rafael Correa, we've heard the assessment from Rafael Correa that there has been no evidence to put him, first of all, to arrest him in December last year, and then much more recently, just over a month ago to secrete him away kind of in the middle of the night to a remote location, maximum security, completely gag him, that he's been to hospital once because his wife was tricked. She was left outside. She wasn't even allowed to come into the hospital. We have photographs of her sleeping on the ground outside the hospital, and they tricked her. And in fact, after they had fed him or whatever, rehydrated, I believe, then they just took him back to the maximum security. All they wanted was a bit like what Moreno wants for Julian, is that they don't die, right? That's all Moreno has actually asked for, is a guarantee from the, the United States that he doesn't die. So, if they keep their end of the deal, that could be, indefinite detention. 45 years in prison. But it seems that, well, let's just be a little pessimistic, because it's not looking like there's going to be any positive resolution. So what happens when Glass does die?
Well, if he dies, and if he dies this week and this scandal is still going on, the people of Ecuador are watching on the news channels and on the newspapers the vice president accusations, and they don't even mention Glass at all. So if he dies, probably they will keep the all the media, concentrated on the vice president. So they will probably say, in a second page, Glass died or something. So
that's terrible.
That is, yes.
That's terrible. And look, how long was Glass actually vice president after he was elected? It was about 6 months?
Yes, they started working with Lenin in May 24. And he was put in jail around October or November of 2017.
It's December it was. It was December.
Yes, just a few months, yes.
Well, I mean, still, I can't see how the whole nation could just forget about the existence of the vice president they elected last year, because the new vice president was not elected. So how can the one they elected just disappear from the collective memory? It's crazy. It's got to be some reaction when he dies.
Oh, yes. I think there is going to be a big reaction, but we don't know yet, because as you can see, people have no idea that Glass is in hunger strike. They just know that he is in hunger strike, but that he is okay. That's what he
Tell me, do you not know some people who can print posters, just black and white, on a large sheet of paper, and just stick them up on the walls of the street? I mean, the people can do that to inform each other. If you choose places that are, frequented, like a popular spot. I don't know Quito at all, but there must be places where there are always crowds of people. And then you can, I know you don't live there, but you must have some friends who can, it can't be that expensive to just do a black and white poster. It doesn't even have to be that big, but I would say a A3 at least. And, issue a cry for help, because this is his last chance, I think.
Yes.
I mean, he's actually, his body would be shutting down for some time now anyway. Oh, there's a lot of damage has been done, but he is still alive. And if he went into intensive care, his life could be saved, I think.
Well, yes. The problem is that the government has assigned his medical team in Quito, which is more than an hour from the jail. So if he has a problem with the heart, he won't have that time.
That's right.
He just won't have it. Because last time that they had that he needed the medical help, he was in the jail for hours until they approved the transfer to the hospital. I think he was like 7 or 8 hours just waiting there, you know, sick.
Yeah. Okay. Folks, I'm going to have to just sign off for a moment. I just received an important phone call, but I won't be long. Maybe
Okay.
Kitty and Bruce, and eventually David, who I've seen has come in. Would you take over with Jose?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, Jose, it's terrible about Jorge Glass. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah. I was just I was showing a couple of your tweets about these topics,